identify the speaker's point of view and perspective. Why? So we can understand what we're reading, and we know we're successful when we can explain the speaker's point of view, POV, and how it changes the perspective, as well as the difference between point of view and perspective itself. So let's quickly review, then we'll read the poem, and we will fill out our organizer. Okay, when we read, we're predicting, we're recalling, connecting, visualizing, and summarizing. These are the elements of poetry, which we'll get into more detail with your organizers. Alright, can anybody tell me what point of view is?
How the story is told.
Okay, how the story is told. What does that mean, Edwin? How many ways can a story be told according to point of view? You're on the right track, right?
First person, me,
Alright, that would be first, second, or third? Me and mine. So that would be who is telling the story, right? Right, so Edwin got the me, my, us, and I. Okay, what's second person? Brandon.
Huh?
What's second person or third person?
I don't know.
Alright, can anybody help Brandon out? Isaac?
How is this story told?
How the story is told, yeah. What's different between, so we just went first person, right? I, me, my, us are words used in the first
Second
person, which is the narrator as a character in the story. So second and third person, how would that differ?
person.
They, there. Okay, what would that be? Second or third?
Second.
Second is actually you, your. So that makes the narrator, makes you a part of the story. Like they're directly talking to you as a person. And then third is what you guys are thinking about with they, them, he, she. That would be a character, that would be a narrator is not a character in the story. They're talking about other people in the story. Okay, what is perspective and Helika? Alright, I'm coming back to you though. Alright, so let's pay attention. Alright, hold on you. David, what would perspective be? Or how do we think about perspective? How people what? Whatever. How by the person, how they are? Okay. Yeah.
How they feel about the story.
So yeah, that would be how the story is told. Okay. How does the narrator or author feel about a topic? So I can see why you would say how they are. It's more about how they feel though, right? And for example, we have how different people view rain. Some people like it, some people don't, right? Based on their perspective on the situation. On somebody's wedding day, people aren't gonna like rain. But if you're gardening, you might really enjoy rain because it helps your plants grow. So it's all about how the narrator or the author feels about a topic. Okay, our essential question is how do we shape and form our identities? So we'll be thinking about that as we read. We're reading The Magic of Words, okay? Can anybody tell me what they remember from this last week?
We read it on Monday.
We read it on Monday, so I know is a long time ago, but does anybody remember anything that stands out before we read it again? That's okay. Okay, let's go on to read it then. We went over our vocab last week: exile, injustice, and festival. So when I read, we're going to be actively watching, listening, and thinking carefully about the text, okay? So, follow along on the screen. The title is The Magic of Words, and the author is Jose Marti.
Oh, I remember this.
Okay, maybe now to be a little bit of a refresher. As a child on the island, I can see injustice. So I write about freedom. But at 16, I'm arrested. And after months of hard labor in prison, I am forced to flee my homeland. In New York, I stroll through Central Park with the children of other exiles, telling stories of gentle elephants and enchanted shrimp. I say that each day is a poem. Some hours are green and peaceful, others are red like festivals or storms. I love teaching children how to tell their own stories. Okay, so what was the main idea of this poem, Edwin? Because Jerry, from the start. You want me to read it again? Okay, I'll read it one more time, because then I'll be handing this out for our organizers. Okay? Okay, 3, 2, 1. As a child on the island, I see injustice. So I write about freedom. But at 16, I'm arrested. And after months of hard labor in prison, I am forced to flee my homeland. In New York, I stroll through Central Park with the children of other exiles, telling stories of gentle elephants and enchanted shrimp. ... I say that each day is a poem. Some hours are green and peaceful, others are red like festivals or storms. I love teaching children how to tell their own stories. So, Edwin, what would you say was the main idea of this poem? Okay, so a big part of the poem was he was arrested. What? Okay, how do you think that affects the author? Or changes his view on things? Think about it, okay? Angelica, what was the main idea of this poem? Freedom. I really like that, right? So that kind of connects to what Edwin was saying, right? He was in prison, which was a key detail. And the main idea that we gather from that detail is that this poem is about freedom. Okay. Valeria, what was another main idea? Where can we say was another thing this poem was really about? Okay, we'll come back to you, Naomi.
He was helping kids make their own bedtime poems.
He was helping children make poems, okay? Isaac, is there something you wanted to add to that?
He wanted freedom.
He wanted freedom, just like Angelica was saying, right?
And of course he wanted freedom, but he doesn't want to be in jail.
Right. Who wants to be in jail? Right, Brendan? Everybody kind of has this innate desire for freedom. Okay, and we talked about the details that support it. Okay, and back to where we are. What is a perspective? Is that perspective? Or is that something else? Okay, so Naomi says that's first person. Is that perspective, Isaac? Or is that something else? Okay, it's something else. What is it though? You're saying it's first person. It's the POV, right? The POV is first person. Is that the same as perspective?
No.
I hear one no. What do you guys think? Okay, I see shaking heads. Maybe.
Oh, the perspective?
Yeah, how does the perspective differ?
I feel like.
Wait, let me call on somebody else so we can hear everybody. Valerie. Alright, head up. So we know that the POV is first person, right? How does that differ from perspective? Right, we just reviewed our definitions. How does that differ from perspective? That's what I'm asking you. Alright, can anybody help Valerie out? Okay, Naomi.
The perspective is he feels like he wants to help other people and he feels that he should help others. Because he helps people make excited poems. So he feels like other kids should do the same thing other people.
Right, so his perspective is that he likes helping others, especially children, to tell their own stories, which is a big part of how he, what? How he
helped other people make excited.
Right, it's how he feels, it's how he thinks, right? Which is different from who is telling the story, right? Okay, and then we did this Monday. Now we're on our
There's
graphic organizer. So go ahead and write your name. Go ahead and write your name. Okay. Okay, so if you take a look at the first box, it says, wait, we're not going to give everybody else the answer. Okay, we have how many verses, aka lines, does the poem have? I want everybody to go ahead and count the lines in the poem. The lines in the poem. And come up with a number for the first box. You have, I'm going to give you guys about 20 seconds to do that. You have questions? Well, we'll get to them in a moment. Go ahead and count them now. Write it down in the first box. How many verses does the poem have? I should see everybody with a number in their first box. Today is the 17th. Alright, so I see 1, 2, 3. Okay. Edwin, how many lines does the poem have? Huh? 12. That would be correct. Okay. The next one says, how many stanzas, groups of lines does the poem have? Go ahead and count and write that number in the next box. How many stanzas? What are stanzas, Angelica? Well, we did this for the last poem, right? it's like the poem version of a paragraph. It's a group of lines, okay? So go ahead and count those and put the number in the box right here. And then we're gonna have the Ishmael. Can you go ahead and get the lights for us? Alright, and Harika, how many stanzas are in this poem? 3. Okay. Okay, now we're getting into the nitty gritty. What is the mood of this poem? What is the mood? That's a good question. What is another word for wanting to give joy to others or wanting to help others? How can we describe that in one word? Happiness?
Wait, what was it?
Wanting to give happiness. What would we call that?
Giving.
Giving? Okay.
It can be 2 words.
It could be 2 words. If you need to describe in more than 1 word, you can.
So can we put giving?
Giving peace. Okay. How would we describe a person like that? Give somebody who gives peace, somebody who's thoughtful. Edwin?
Oh, giving kindness.
Okay. But mood is not like the main idea. Mood is like the overall feeling of the poem. So think, is it calm? Is it cheerful? Is it hopeful? Is it gloomy? Is it funny? What is the overall feeling that this poem gives us?
It's sad.
It's sad. Why do you think it's sad, Isaac?
Because he went to jail.
Okay, so he went to jail in the beginning.
I would be sad too.
Is it sad the whole time though?
No, because we have kids.
So you would say that it starts off sad and then how does the mood shift? Medium mood, like what?
Happiness, sad.
It goes from sadness to happiness?
I guess so.
Okay. Anybody else? How do we feel about the mood of the poem? Jaden? I called on Jaden, so I should use Jaden's voice. Do we think it's gloomy? Do we agree with Brandon?
Agree with what?
Do you think it's gloomy? Why?
What gloomy? I don't know. It's just
Gloomy means like very sad and depressing. Do you think it's a very depressing poem, or do we think it's something else, Jaden? Okay, something else like what? Okay, I want you to think about it. Naomi,
cheerful.
why do you think it's cheerful?
Because it's really cheerful because he's helping others in the world.
Okay, so it ends on a cheerful note because he's helping others. Okay. So I feel like it'd be a mix, right, between what Brandon said and what Naomi said, because in the beginning, it does say he was a child seeing injustice, writing about freedom, and then he was arrested and had to flee. I would classify that as gloomy or sad. So I would say the mood starts off sad or gloomy, then shifts to be what? Almost over. Shifts to be what? cheerful and happy. He's helping people. Okay. Cheerful. How else could we describe this shift? Chaotic. What would be a good word to put in the end of the sentence? The mood starts off sad, then shifts to be happier. Okay. Happier, cheerful is what I'm hearing. I would classify it as hopeful too, right? Because he's helping people, which gives hope to others. But I'm gonna use your words to be more cheerful. Cheer.
I can't write all that.
Okay.
Yo, but you think I can write all that in 5 seconds?
No. Go ahead and write that down. We're gonna start shifting over to